because I've done techno for about 20 years, and there's just a certain type of exhaustion from performing. But to perform with my brain is just this extra level of, it's like a workout. It's like a workout for my brain. So, no, it can't be the Not at this point. My goal is to slowly build this set to be a longer piece, but this is what you get tonight.
Have you,
Yes.
it looks like you're using some at least meditation or breathing to try
Yes.
and get into a certain groove.
Yep.
You ever written out your bills for the month? And
Yes, I have actually.
See what that sounds like?
No, I have. So one of the things I have to do with systems like this is just long-term bug test it. And so I'll put on the EEG, I'll have the music going, and then like I did my taxes recently, or I'll do emails or whatever, and the music's kind of morphing and mutating in the background. So generally when I'm doing technical things or thinking a lot, my delta goes up. So in the video, when it became more red, that was my delta higher. And when I actually listen to the music or think about music, or when I do composing work, I'm not thinking any words. It's just this long state of nonverbal arranging sounds. My alpha goes up, and that was the blue tint to the video. And so I have experimented with different mental states and see what comes up.
Watching TV.
I haven't watched TV. Something I have noticed, which is a little bit creepy, is that when I look at my phone, even if I'm like reading or something somewhat, just as soon as I look at a device, all my brain waves just drop. And so I actually, in an early prototype, one of the ways that I triggered a note was to clear all my brainwaves drop, and then a note would trigger. I don't use that because it's too stimulating to be in a show and try to clear my brain. But it was creepy to see that like the best, most effective way to get my delta and actually all my brainwaves to drop is just look at a phone. And I think that's part of the attraction of phones, is that it gives your brain a rest. Like all your waves just kind of, so it's a little creepy. Any other questions?
What sort of MIDI sequencer or controller are you using?
The actual,
Yeah.
it's an Octatrack, Electron Octatrack. And so the Octatrack is one of those devices that's really hard to explain because it's just so layered. So you can use it as an effects processor, you can use it as a sampler, you can use it as a drum machine, you could do synthesis with it. And so they call it a dynamic performance sampler. That's such a corporate term. But it's, what I'm doing is the sounds that I'm composing with are in there. And the signal path, not that you asked, but I
No,
guess
I am curious.
So I'm using this, it's a headband. I don't know if you can see this, but it's a Muse headband. It comes with a meditation app, but they have an open API, so if you know how to code or do engineering, you can hack into it and get data from it directly, which is what I did. So it's a Bluetooth device, and so as I'm wearing it, it's transmitting the data from my brain, Bluetooth, over to, I made a custom iPhone app, and that receives the brain data and crunches it, does data mapping, converts it into compositions, and then sends it from the phone, a MIDI cable going directly into that Octatrack. So that's the signal path. So brain, Muse, iPhone, MIDI cable, Octatrack, speakers.
So you could theoretically change your set of sounds through
Yes.
Octatrack. Oh, sweet.
Absolutely. Yep. And one of the things I've discovered recently with this work is, I don't know if I was putting my hand out sometimes, and what I've discovered is because there are 5 sensors here, what it's doing is it's detecting electrical charge from the brain, and then I can think right or think left, and the electrical charge will go left or right on the sensor, and so that way I'm able to change the sounds I'm working with. I'm cross-fading with my brain, and so that was a recent discovery I'm very excited about. And so one of the things I was doing is holding my hand out, because if peripheral, I kind of focus on something over here, it helps me bring the electricity over to this side of my brain. And then and on my iPhone app, I see the little cursor go tick, 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 tick over to the right, and then I can change sounds.
That's really
And then once I'm in a sound set, I compose with that for a period of time, and then tick, tick, tick to the left, and switch over to the next track. And there was 6 songs total tonight.
What is your subjective perception of the feedback of listening to the music while it's coming out controlled by your brainwaves? Is there feedback?
There is, and that's when the alpha goes up. So when I hear the thing that I'm producing, alpha waves go up, alpha waves go up when you meditate. Alpha waves go up, I believe, nonverbal and music work. And so for me in this performance, it's my anchor. And so if at some point I get lost in kind of whatever, I can go back and just literally just focus on the music that's being produced, and it puts me back into lockstep. It brings me back into, that's my foundation, is listening to the actual music that's being produced. And so what you would hear when I was in that state is it would get bassier and dreamier. And alpha state, because it's meditative, I want the sound to reflect the mental state, and so it'd be kind of I want to replicate a subconscious dreamier feel. Did that answer?
Yeah.
Great. Any questions from my art friends over here? I've got some art friends over here that I've known for years. They're not techies, but they're amazing artists. Nothing?
Well, what was visual?
That's a great question.
Visual, I know, I was privy to some of this a couple weeks ago, so I got to see some of the, stuff on the iPhone or whatever, but
Yep. So
I was expecting more of that, not something that was of...
did you see the waves? Is that what I showed you?
Yeah, I did see the waves, but I was expecting more of what's on your phone. Or, the actual...
Oh, you saw what Liz saw is she saw the actual interface that I'm looking at, which is, it's kind of nerdy. It's just a bunch of numbers and bars, and it tells me what the machine is doing at that moment. So as I'm sending commands to the machine, I see that it's responding properly. Maybe that'd be interesting for everyone to see. But what I was showing visually is, I did a bunch of VHS work when I was in high school, just art videos, and I cut that up into kind of the smoothest, most interesting shapes and movement. And what I did was, I think you can still do this. It was an old Magnavox camcorder. I'd point it into the TV and then have the signal plugged in, so it'd create video feedback loops. And some of it's too crunchy, too fuzzy, but some of it is really smooth movements. And so that's what I was using, was this, that type of VHS feedback. And I put some scan lines on top of it graphically. And then the height of the window was based on my alpha wave. And the blue, red, purple mix was balanced between alpha and delta. And those are the two main compositional. I'm also using theta this time. That, what did I assign that to? I've done so much programming this last 2 weeks, so I'll try something and then try this and try that. I think it was assigned to the effects, the theta level. I guess there's no way you can prove me wrong. You said. So, but I know, alpha and delta are the main composition. And the tempo was set by alpha this time. I experimented with something else last time, but it was alpha this time. Any other questions?
Can you tell us more about what thoughts are going through your mind, like your internal processes?
This time, types of thoughts, or actual language, or just anything?
Yeah, I guess is actual language, are you thinking verbally or?
It's more mental states, and the music helps me stay out of a verbal. Which is why it's kind of hard to talk now, because when I work on music for a while, I see people later that day, and I'm like, "Why?" So the mental states, some of it is just focusing on my body and breathing, because of just deep. This sound system is much larger than the first one. it got loud. So that was one of my first thoughts. I was like, shit, that's loud. So I don't know how that, it got a little sharper when I thought that. And I was like, oh, that's making it worse. So when I will literally focus on the music, I'll focus on my breathing. Sometimes I'll do a meditation technique I learned when I was like 19, and it's this kind of activating, really charged one that will have my delta go up. I'm experimenting with movement. If that makes my theta go up, the results are inconsistent, so I'm not sure about that yet. I've read that beta will go up if you talk, but I'm not talking. I guess I could talk to myself during the set. Would that be weird? Like seeing me like talk to myself like that? I mean, the whole thing's weird, so. So it's mental states, and the main thing I'm looking to do is change. And so even just closing my eyes spikes my delta, because also my brain's like, why is it dark? And then it figures out, oh, you close your eyes, and then it balances out again. And so when I open my eyes or close my eyes or shift my vision around, that can change my delta. And again, always the anchor is just listening to the music, and that'll bring that alpha bass back up. And then when I'm shifting over, that takes more focus of, I'm not thinking right. I'm just trying to, it's kind of like when you're watching something peripheral out your right or left. It's that kind of focus, but it's more a mental focus. And so when I was changing tracks, that took a pretty concerted effort to think right or think left to switch over to the next set of sounds. Did that answer? Anyone else? Yes?
So it seemed like there are moments where you're like physically manipulating something.
Yeah, sometimes I would reach to, well, go ahead and finish your question before I.
But that I was impressed that you were able to like maintain concentration on whatever it was you were thinking about, to not have that show up in the sound itself. I would
Sure.
expect, you know what I mean? Like I would expect if you were turning up the volume or something that you would have a sound.
Yep. So I do have, in the software where I do the data mapping, I have different stabilizers, because if it were pure just, if I didn't have those stabilizers, it would be a very, very chaotic set. Mm-hmm. And so in order to have the balance between, it was an artistic choice, a balance between something that sounds good and something that's pure to the data, I had to find a blend between those. So real sharp spikes when I, did do something, and I'll explain what I was doing. There's stabilizers on there to prevent a real insane, and one of the things, so to explain what I was doing, I've got these different sliders, excuse me, I've got these different sliders on the phone, and one is a sensitivity slider, and so it can make the output more stable or more chaotic, dynamic. And so just as I'm listening to it and hearing how my brain is responding to this room and the sound in this room, I change that sensitivity slider. There's like 5 settings, it's like 1 to 5. So I adjusted that a few times. So when you did see me reach, I was changing the sensitivity of the overall system. And near the end, I increased the sensitivity. Anything else?
The end was really smooth, how did you end?
The last track has more space in it, so that made it easier. And then one of the things, there's also an accelerometer in the motion sensor in the headband. And so if I put my head all the way forward, it starts to take out core parts of that sound. There's still some sound there, but it takes out the spine of it. And then I quit the app, and so it kind of just died. And I was kind of keeping an eye on the visuals, because the visuals kind of get smaller and smaller near the end. That seemed the best way to wrap it up. But it's using the motion sensor in it, yeah. She has the best questions. Thank you, Kate. Anything else? Well, if you have any other questions, you can come grab me. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being part of this Feed Me Weird Things.